Here we go. Computer Chess Championship, Stockfish versus Leela Chess Zero. 5 minutes, 5-second increment. Let's get right into the game. Here we go. E4, C5 from Leela Chess. Knight F3 from Stockfish. E6 from Leela Chess Zero. So flexible Sicilian, not knowing what we're going to get yet. Probably, maybe D5. We don't know. E6 doesn't say anything yet. D4, pawn takes, knight takes, and A6. So now we have what we call the Paulsen Sicilian, which is very flexible. It can turn into a Scheveningen or a Taimanov Sicilian as well. So A6, very flexible, not telling the hand yet. Bishop to D3. You also have knight C3 and C4 going Maroczy Bind style as well. For white here. Bishop D3, knight F6, not attacking the pawn, but just developing the piece. Makes total sense. Of course, actually, instead of knight F6, bishop C5 is a move with knight B3 and bishop A7 being theory. So knight F6 is also theory as well. Castle's getting out of the way. Queen to C7, getting queen off the back rank. A lot of times it's about the flexibility and patience, which is the theme of this entire game. Let's keep going, right? So queen C7, queen to E2, D6, and then C4, there it is. Now we do have ourselves a Maroczy Bind type structure. In fact, I mean, that's exactly what it is. We have pawns on E4 and C4 binding the D5 square. You see this in many Sicilians. And in fact, from the white side, you can actually play the Maroczy Bind really against almost every Sicilian if you're allowed to play E4 and C4, especially after D4 and knight takes D4. Having the knight in the center, pawns on E4 and C4 against the Sicilian. Pretty awesome stuff. Okay, C4, black plays G6. Leela Chess Zero already going for a hedgehog type structure here with the pawns up. Of course, hedgehog like, and you get all the pawns up to like the third or the sixth rank, third rank for white, 6 for black. And when we're doing this, what we're saying is what happens is if white tries to attack too much, then you get pricked by the quills, right, of the hedgehog structure, right? So if you play stuff like F4, F5, you could actually get in trouble because you're attacking too fast. You need some patience. So G6 and knight to C3, developing, very smart move. Obviously, you just got to get the pieces off the back rank. No matter what opening you're playing, this is pretty simple, and obviously the first thing, you need to get king safety, obviously, but develop the pieces. So knight to C3, bishop G7, rook to D1, very nice move, interesting, putting pressure on the D file, castles, and then bishop to E3 from Stockfish. Now, of course, here, more human-like move actually is knight F3, which play actually will continue like after knight to C6, H3, and then knight to D7, and then playing bishop to E3. And you would see this a lot in many Maroczy Bind structures. I mean, I've actually had the pleasure of playing it from both sides, from white and black, an Accelerated Dragon fan, and I used to play this a lot with Accelerated Dragon, and we would face the Maroczy Bind a lot. So this is definitely, up the alley of regular theory, right? To say the least, this is more human route. Bishop E3 is definitely a move too as well, not a problem. A lot of times Bishop E3 is annoying because of knight G4. You can't play it yet, but there is no knight G4. Bishop E3 is totally fine, and we didn't have to move a piece twice in the opening, as Capablanca says, refrain from doing so. So bishop to E3, right, and then B6. So we do have the hedgehog type structure, saying, white, I'm going to sit around and wait to see what you do, and we're going to play off what you do. We're going to keep our options open and flexible. So that's what black's doing here, flexibility. B6, F3. From white here, from Stockfish, a lot of times you go for the triangle setup is what they call this. A2, B3, C4, E4, F3, G2. This is the triangle setup, and the pieces play behind it, and you're very patient, and you have a bind on the center. Very positional type game. But wait, keep watching. So after F3, bishop to B7, getting out of the way, right, and developing. Nice, and don't want to keep this piece on the file. You also maybe want to put a rook on the C file as well. Easy move to make. This is why we play B6 as well. Rook A to C1, get another piece in the game. Knight D7, right? And now we have our patience hedgehog structure here, right? Flexibility. I can play A5, B5, D5, E5, F5. G5 is kind of crazy, but you get the point here. You can put everything on the 5th rank. You can always be flexible. You're always ready to counterattack with counterattack white's thrust in the center, like or pawn thrust, we would say. And you're ready to meet all of white's attacks, to say the least, right? So we're feeling good about the hedgehog structure from Leela Chess Zero, but white also has the space advantage. So here we go. White makes a move here. Now, let's actually see what you can come up with. What would you play in this position? White to move, and then let's see if you can figure it out. Here we go, right? So this move is actually a really strong move. I recommend. I think it's really, really cool to see this move is queen to D2. Not a move that's like spectacular. Like, well, queen D2, like, what am I doing, right? But white is preparing to move this bishop to F1, right? And then, of course, the queen can support D6, right, with the rook and the queen here, with some pressure on the D6 pawn, especially if we move the knight. So this is a powerful move, queen D2. Very simple. We want to move the bishop, which is bad. I like b1 too as well. But the problem with b1 is you are giving up this pawn, but there's tactical ideas because of the queen being exposed on this file with knight moves like that. So queen to d2, rook to e8, and bishop f1 happens. After rook a to c8, white plays king to h1. So Stockfish goes for a patient move here, getting out of the way as humans here. Sometimes it's difficult to make moves like this. Sometimes we just want to attack. Get it done, do it now. We'll see lots of times in this game, we'll see other instances like this where we could go for this, but we'll be a little bit more patient. So after king h1, there's a queen to b8, like this type of move. Sometimes you even go queen a8 and try to push for d5. But again, keeping flexible options here. Look at the patience and the maneuvering here, right? Knight to c2, getting out of the way, attacking the d6 pawn. So bishop f8 makes total sense to defend it. Bishop f4, attack the pawn. Knight e5, defend the pawn. I mean, we're easy. We're going back and forth. You do this, I'm responding. You're going to respond to this or not, right? So back and forth, very logical moves, make sense. Bishop to g5 attacks the knight. We move the knight, right? And then here, actually, a3 was played. So a3, actually, this is a strange move, you would say, but it also is a waiting move. h3 could have been played. I mean, g3 could have been played. Bishop h4, bishop e2. Like, you have so many moves. The purpose with a4 is a good waiting move. You can also play b4 at some point. Also, you want to pass it back to black to see what they're going to do. So knight to h5, bishop back to e3. Knight h5 is a nice move. I mean, sometimes playing stuff like f5, f6, and maybe even h6 in certain cases. But, of course, bishop takes h6 is there now. So it's very difficult to make things happen. So we need to move our knight and play f5, maybe e5 too, maybe put the knight on f4 if you can. But bishop to e3, knight back to f6, and then bishop back to f4. And it's like, oh, you want to draw? You want to draw, bro? We've been here before, right? And then he says, nah, I'm good. I'm good. b3, we're going to defend this pawn here. We did lose our triangle structure, but of course, it's fine. It's patience. There's lots of moves left to go. Knight f to d7. Looks like we've been here before. White plays knight d4. Nice waiting move. Put the knight in the center of the board. And it's not attacking anything, but hey, it's whatever. It's better on d4 than it was on c2. Bishop to a8. Bishop a8. Nice waiting move here, of course. Just honestly patience from both sides here. And then we have an h3 move, which you can actually understand this by a lot. We're preparing to probably move our bishop to h2 and we want to play f4 at some point. Move the bishop, play f4. Move the bishop, play f4, right? That's what this is about. h3, we have a rook e to d8. As black really didn't make any serious progress, we got the pieces out. We're sitting and waiting kind of for white to do something. And white's kind of doing the same, but slow improvements like h3 with bishop h2, f4 coming. And then maybe we could do something later, which is what white's trying to go for. But black's is like, I'm ready. I'm ready for that. I got a rook on the c file, rook on the d file. My bishops are covering everything, but I'm just kind of holding. Queen e3, stepping out of the way, right? It's so many moves you can make here. So, of course, it is all about patience and striking at the right moment after you have built up the position. You have to build the position up, especially in positions like this where everything, no exchanges, nothing has been captured, right? Stuff like that. So, it's very good to understand that. Okay, rook back to e8, and here we go. Rook c2. This is a nice move. The rook is better placed here on the d file. You could also maybe try rook d2 as well, but rook c2 and then rook over to d2 is a very nice sequence just to put more pressure on this pawn. So what, right? We got so much time, or not really. This is a 5-second increment game, but so much time in the position, we would say, to kind of do whatever we want. Queen to c7. Honestly, the queen went where? Right, c7, b8, bishop a8, rook shuffled, bishop back to f8, knight went to here and here. I mean, like, this doesn't look the greatest. And white is making some slight progress. We did get the bishop out. Queen looks better. Knight's in the center. Rook here. This bishop's terrible, but hey, you can't have everything in a position sometimes. So queen to c7, bishop h2 is the move that we were definitely wanting to play because we want to play f4 to kick the knight away. h6 here, maybe trying to go for g5, but this is the beginning of a active plan that will actually backfire for black here. So black does a kind of a random waiting move, I think, but g5, f5. I mean, it makes a move. I can't go queen g5, but f4 is definitely coming. f4 is definitely coming. But what I like here is that Stockfish was very patient from the computer here. I mean, as you know, they can do everything and anything and everything better than we can do. But this patience here it's remarkable to see, and it actually is inspiring, actually, in some ways, to try to have patience like this in your own games. After rook here, I mean, f4 was like f4. It felt like we should play f4, but okay, rook c to d2. Knight f6, okay, f4, right? All in favor of f4? No, bishop e2. Patience, right? This is humans. We are going to play f4 here. Attack the knight, maybe even g4, g5, right? Bishop e2. Very patient. Very patient. So knight f to d7, right? Surely we should be playing f4 here, right? Surely. I mean, it's time to kick the knight. It's about time we get rid of this knight. Surely enough. I mean, of course, we play f4. Or you play bishop g3 because you're an engine. What is this move? This is not a move. Now, of course, Stockfish can play whatever they like, right? Stockfish can play whatever. But bishop g3, though, is not a human move at all. This is just 100%, 1,000% engine. I have no idea. No one knows what this move actually does. But Stockfish, when you ask Stockfish, why did you play this move? Because you could just play f4. And watch, the funny thing is the bishop just like watch the rest of the game, right? g5, right? And finally Leela loses patience here. The problem is that like this can happen, and we're going to break this up, and this is super weak. And you can tell whose king is weaker, right? So definitely a problem. But f4 was finally played here. Finally, after bishop, I think it's weird, waited here, right? But I guess it was a waiting move. See what happens. You could have played f4, but g5 would never happen. Bishop g3, and Leela just kind of was like, I'm tired of this. You didn't play f4, g5, and lashed out here. And f4 finally actually works even stronger now because of the threats on the king. So pawn takes and bishop takes, and now h6 is hanging. So now I have stuff to do. Now I have targets where my king is safer than yours. Okay, king h7. Nice move here from Stockfish. Knight f3, undermining the knight's position. Trying to break this down. Also keeping pressure, of course, on the d6 pawn. Queen to c5, and of course, we could trade queens here. a3 is hanging too, so should we trade queens or not? That's up to you to answer. Should we trade queens right here or not? Okay, here it is. Now, if you said we should not trade queens, you actually are correct. But what move do you play is the question. A lot of you probably said knight to d4. It looks great. I mean, we've been there before. Looks great. But of course, the best move here is actually rook d4, sacrificing a pawn on a3, which is absolutely captured. b3 is hanging as well. And here's another move. Boom, right here. Queen f2. Now we're aiming. We're aiming at f7. There's some problems here. What happens on queen takes b3? Well, let's see. Queen takes b3. Knight takes e5. It wins by force, by the way. Of course, you can't take with the pawn because the rook takes d7. And if, of course, knight takes back. So then bishop takes, right? And then we take, and queen takes. I mean, this is just completely winning, crushing, absolutely crushing it, right? You can't allow this. So queen takes b3 is not going to happen. After queen f2, we do have a bishop c6, just getting the bishop off the back rank, trying to figure out what is white going to do next. But after bishop to c6, I mean, it really is up to white to finish this. Like, it's not really over yet. You got work to do. You got work to do. And if you're watching this, you got work to do. It's white to move. What do you do? Here's the move, guys. Here's the move. If you said rook b1, you're wrong. If you said knight takes e5, you're wrong. If you said bishop takes e5, you're wrong. If you said knight e5, oh my goodness, you lied. Oh my goodness. That's a totally unexpected blow. This is a move nobody was going to play. No one was playing this move right here. And it is a bolt out of the blue. What is this move? What is this? What are those, right? Well, let's see what happens, right? Okay, so bishop g7 was the move from Leela Chess, but we got to see what happens if, like, what if you take the knight? What is this, right? So e takes d5, obviously the bishop is hanging, right? But he backs it up and says, I'm going to keep the piece here. Here's the next move. Boom, knight takes e5. I'm like, what is this, right? D takes e5, come on now. D takes e5, pretty simple. And then, of course, can you find a move? Can you find a move here? White to move, you're in a fork. In a nasty little fork here. It's kind of annoying, right? You don't want to be forked here, so what do you do? What do you do? Let's see if you can find the sequence here. A lot of times moves are fine, but can you find the sequence of moves? Here we go. Bishop c1 first, attack the queen, because if you take the rook, obviously I'm going to take the queen. So queen goes back to e7, very safe square, also holding f7 because that was hanging as well. So here we go. Bishop d3 check. Whoa. King has to go back. Next threat is what? What do you do next? I mean, what an attack here. It's like, good luck finding all of these moves, right? Over the board, if you like, calculating COE, right? Calculation over everything. We got to calculate. So this is very tough stuff, right? Only move you can probably make everybody can find this. Queen 8. I'm trying to mate you. I'm trying to mate. F6 stops Queen H7. And then the move here is Rook H4. And even here, I was like, man, what a wicked line. This is a line for the days, for the ages. That was a nasty line, guys. I mean, going back to that, let's look at that one more time, right? One more time here. After knight d5, if e takes, so of course you want to keep the piece. I sack the piece, so you're going to give it back? I mean, but so he goes back, right? Then we take on e5, and of course d takes is a move. Obviously, if knight takes, right, then we have bishop takes, and this just opens up this. This is what, this is really bad. After bishop g7, bishop d3 check, king h8. You also have b7 hanging too, at the worst case, if you didn't want to figure this stuff out, but Engine finds the ridiculous lines, right? So we want to look at that. Yes, you could take the bishop, but rook to g4, hit mate first. Then after defend it, queen g6. I mean, this is a family channel. Let's get this off the screen right now. I apologize. So that's just ridiculous. But after d takes e5, this is forking, right? So this is definitely, okay, fork. You got to find bishop c1. Queen has to go back. We go with bishop d3 check, put the bishop on the file here, or the diagonal, and then king h8, and then queen f5. Same idea, attacking with mate, go f6, and then we go rook h4 with a decisive attack. So this is why it was not captured. Knight d5 wasn't captured because of all of that. Mind you, this is a 5-minute game, 5-second increment. I mean, these engines are absolutely ridiculously strong, right? But knight to d5, and then bishop to g7. Not going for any of the antics. I don't want any of that. Okay, knight d5, you put it there, it looks cute. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cool. Put the knight there, and he didn't take it. So what's your next move then? White to move. Here we go. Move is bishop c1. That's a hard move to find. Really? I mean, not really. I mean, we looked at it before. But the idea, I think, is the hard part. The bishop c1, the idea, actually, is really just moving the knight to the f4 square. Because there is no more okay, the tactics don't work anymore. That's cute. You leave the knight here, he's going to take it. And you're actually going to go down a piece at some point. So bishop to c1, very strong, attacking the queen, right? And then, of course, we could immediately, right, go knight f4, but there was a knight takes e5, which was a nicer move, more accurate. Knight takes e5, and then knight f4. So now the knight can head over to h5, so we can attack things from there, and rook to g8. And honestly, guys, this is there's 30 moves left from here, so we're going to fly through some moves. Queen e3 is a nice move to play. It kind of just reroutes the queen to a better square, and you don't want to be, in this little weird pin. Bishop f8, rook f1, rook c7, bishop to d1. Look at all of the patience, I would say. Again, look this took a long time. You sacked the piece here, but it didn't take it, and then we have to be more patient to reroute. Now the bishops probably want to be like this because that will be devastating. Let's see if we can do that. So after bishop to d1, right, there was rook b7, rook d2. Why do we need this here? Because we need to control the second rank so the bishops can do their job. So queen a5, there's one of them. All right, there's one. Oh, and there's the other one. There they go. Don't they look so pretty there? Like on d1 and c1, now b2 and c2. Oh my goodness, here we go. Bishop e8, right? Just trying to hold. I mean, this is tough. This is very, very tough. Now, speaking of tough, guys, it's your move. It's your move. And I don't blame you if you don't find this one. But it is white to move here. Let's see if your tactic senses are tingling or, if you did your puzzle rush today. White to move. This is your puzzle rush right now. White to move. What are we going to do? I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't find this. If you have enough time to find this, you still might not find this, right? Pause the video, come back in a day. You still not going to find this move. Here it is. Here it is. You ready? Rook d5. What is this? It gave it brilliant. Brilliant. It was a brilliant move. Oh my goodness. You thought knight d5 was ridiculous. I mean, the d5 square got abused this game. The Maroczy Bind on steroids here. This was ridiculous. Rook d5. Like, what on earth is this? Oh my goodness. b5 was played. Of course, we got to see what happens if he takes it. But then I'm just showing you that Leela Chess didn't even take it. This rook is absolutely capturable. Like, you can capture it now. Okay, so let's see it. E takes d5. Sorry, E takes d5 here. After E takes d5, the cleanest way to do this, believe it or not, by the engine, of course, engine approved, bishop takes e5. That was very interesting. The problem here is that this could still win, and I'm showing you right now what would happen. If E takes d5, which is check, you block with the knight, and this is still winning, but there's a more accurate way, as of course the Stockfish finds. After bishop takes, knight e6. This is an absolute monster knight, and this is winning. for white, but it's not won yet. You still have work to do, and you're down a piece. So you have to be very accurate still. You got stuff to do, maybe queen d4s, right? And then something with like rook f8s and all kind of stuff is there. So there's definitely some huge tactics here, but bishop takes e5 was more accurate because it gets rid of that square for the knight to go to g6. So now after captures, we take back with the check here, king h8, and now, okay, look, can you find the move here, guys? Can you find a move here? Can you find a move? What do you think you do? I know you got it. I know you got it. I know you do. I know you do it, right? Queen d3 or e4, right? Of course, right? Queen d3, great job. Garbage does not work. It's over, you lose. Rook g7, like, I mean, and of course, this is okay, right? In fact, actually, you can still fight here, but this is not accurate. This was not accurate. If you're not accurate, hey, look, you can lose advantages at any moment of the game, right? From not being accurate. That is not accurate at all. But if you did say 96, which nobody was probably looking at, but if you did find this, kudos to you. 96 is the move. What a absolute move. Like, who was looking at this one, right? This is probably the last move you look at, but that's why you should look at it first, actually. Just gave you a tip there. 96, right? 96 with queen takes h6 is mating. So this is a beautiful move if pawn take. Oops, sorry. Oh, that too. It doesn't matter what you do with this pawn. f5, f6, or takes is queen takes h6 with a mate. Beautiful. 96. So, of course, bishop g5, which blocks that connection. Here's a nasty line. Queen takes e5, right? You can't do anything. You can't block with anything but the pawn, which is f6. Finish it off here. What do you do? It's a pretty easy one, probably, right? Pretty easy one. I'll give you a few more seconds to figure this one out. Pause the video if you have to. White to move, pretty easy one. Just take on f6, right? It's an easy one. Rook takes, bishop takes back, queen takes with check. It doesn't matter how you block, you're getting mated. If you block with this rook, well, then we have a Boxian mate like this, right? And if, of course, don't forget about the bishop over here. And if we go with this rook, then you can go queen f8, right? And then rook g8, queen h6, rook h7, and then queen h7 mate. Beautiful. I mean, this is right. This is outrageous. And this didn't happen, right? The move that happened was b5. b5. And was like, all right, I believe you. Like, oh my goodness, b5. That's a scare. And I would too. I was like, you know what? I probably wouldn't take that rook. If I'm looking at this, I'm just not going to take that rook. Don't even calculate it. Just don't take the rook. c5, now white actually is totally winning here, like literally just winning. But of course, let's fly through some moves to finish this off. So actually, the sacrifice was accepted after queen d2. Finally went for it, takes. There's a check, rook to g6. And then after rook g6, bishop takes, 96 finally, right? Getting the knight in here. There's some problems. Queen b8 and c6. Now let's watch this. Rook a7, take stock. Actually, let's make another move here. Bishop d4, hit the rook. Take stock, we down a piece, but white is totally dominating because the pieces that you have are all passive. Down a whole piece right now, an absolute whole piece, but you can't do anything. White's completely winning. What a game, guys. What a game here. Patience here, then sacrificing at the right moment when your opponent is at, when your position is ready to be ready for it, right? When it calls for it. Queen e1, sorry, rook c7, and then queen e1. He's like, yo, take it, bro. Please take it. Please take the rook. Queen e1, and it's like, nah, I'm good. This knight is much better than the rook. Queen e1, rook c8, and then finally taking, and we got like 20 moves here. So let's fly through. So c7, knight, rook takes, and queen takes e5. I'm threatening mate, and the c7 move is very strong too. It hits the queen, and queen takes e5 is the threat anyway. So rook takes, queen takes with obvious threats. And it's really game over. Bishop d6 was the best move. Like, if you know that's the best move, it's terrible. And now the piece you were up is gone, so we're just losing completely. Queen f8, I mean, it's just game over. It's just game over. So knight c5. Look at the little reroute, sticking move, right? Shuffle your feet real quick. And this is over. This one's over. And Stockfish went on to win this game. The patience, the Maroczy Bind, then sacrificing, and then sacrificing again. This was brilliant. Absolutely a sweet game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. And if you enjoyed this one, then make sure you check the ones right above me. We'll see you on the next video.